For decades, Toyota has been synonymous with reliability. From the legendary Corolla to the iconic Land Cruiser, the Japanese brand built such a solid reputation that, for millions of people, buying a Toyota was an automatic decision. It didn't matter where in the world you were. You knew that car wouldn't let you down. But what happens when being reliable is no longer enough? The automotive world is undergoing the biggest revolution since the invention of the combustion engine. We're talking about electrification, artificial intelligence on wheels, and consumers who are no longer satisfied with just having a car that doesn't break down. They demand technology, sustainability, and a connected experience. And that's where the Japanese giant starts to stumble. Toyota was a pioneer with the Prius. Yes, no one can take that away from them. But while others moved forward toward fully electric vehicles, Toyota stayed comfortable in its hybrid zone. They bet on a slow transition, and now the market is making them pay for it. To give you an idea, in 2024, Toyota still didn't have a strong lineup of fully electric vehicles. Most of their models were still betting on hybrids as a bridge. But in the meantime, emerging brands and some well-known ones have taken over the space that Toyota left open. And it's not just about the type of engine. There's also something nobody wants to admit. Toyota has lost some of its spark. Many of their cars, while functional and efficient, don't excite, they don't surprise. They're like that reliable friend who's always there, but doesn't have anything new to say anymore. Meanwhile, other brands have aggressively improved in design, performance, connectivity, and value for money. And they're doing it at a pace that Toyota simply can't ignore. The threat isn't coming from just one front. It's a siege from all sides, from Europe, Asia, America, even within Japan itself. And the most dangerous part? Toyota knows it, but it can't move as quickly as startups can. It's a giant with millions of employees, massive factories, and processes that take years to change. Every move takes time, and that's exactly the resource their competitors are using against them. That's why what you're about to discover in this video is no exaggeration. It's a clear map of 6 brands that are taking advantage of every weakness Toyota has to scale up, innovate, and in some cases, directly steal its customers. And if things keep going this way, Toyota might not fall overnight, but its reign definitely has an expiration date. Renault, the European blow no one saw coming. For years, Renault was seen as a traditional brand, even somewhat predictable. Functional, urban vehicles without big ambitions. But in 2025, everything changed. And it happened so fast that even Toyota, with all its global machinery, didn't know how to react. In Spain, for example, Renault didn't just increase its sales. It shot up by 70% in a single year. Growth like that isn't just a lucky streak. It's a declaration of war. Toyota, which had comfortably led that market, started to lose ground. And the most unsettling part is that it wasn't because of a technical failure or a reputational crisis. It was because Renault understood better than anyone what people want today. And that's key. While Toyota was focused on perfecting its hybrids, Renault went all in on the urban electric vehicle, efficient, well-equipped, and, this is crucial, affordable. Models like the Megane E-Tech or the Dacia Spring aren't futuristic supercars. They're real cars, designed for real people with competitive prices, good design, and enough technology for everyday life without breaking the bank. Plus, Renault isn't just selling cars, they're selling an idea. You can switch to electric without making your life complicated. And that resonates with the European consumer who is increasingly aware of the environment, but also of the price of a kilowatt, emission taxes, and the growing number of low-emission zones in cities every year. Toyota, on the other hand, has been more cautious. In many cases, too cautious. Their electric transition has been seen as conservative. Too much hybrid, not enough pure battery. And in Europe, where environmental regulations are getting stricter and stricter, that's starting to take a toll. But what's most surprising is that this growth from Renault isn't limited to Spain. It's already starting to be replicated in other European markets, where urban and practical electric cars are increasingly in demand. And it's doing so without big campaigns or overblown promises, just with a clear strategy executed with surgical precision. Can a brand like Renault really threaten Toyota? Yes, because the battle for the future won't be fought between the usual giants, but between those who best understand the new consumer. And today, Renault is reading out loud, while Toyota is still turning the page. Mazda, the brand that learned to do more with less. Mazda doesn't make a lot of noise. You won't see their cars in Hollywood movies, nor do their launches make headlines like Teslas or Mercedes. But while the rest of the automotive world chases after trends, Mazda walks steadily and directly toward the hearts of consumers. And that's where the silent threat to Toyota lies. For years, Mazda was seen as a modest, almost niche brand. But that perception is changing, and fast. Why? Because Mazda understood that it doesn't need to be the biggest to compete. It just needs to make cars with superior quality, authentic design, and a driving experience that wins people over. Models like the Mazda CX-5 or the Mazda 3 have become benchmarks within their segments. And the interesting thing? They compete directly with Toyota's best-selling models and often outperform them. Not necessarily in total sales, but in perceived value, customer loyalty, and something that few brands achieve, driving pleasure. And while Toyota bets on volume and large-scale reliability, Mazda fine-tunes details that others consider secondary. The sound of a door closing, the exact weight of a steering wheel, the way a car handles a tight curve. They're small things, yes, but they make a big difference. Now then, the most interesting thing is their engine strategy. Mazda didn't immediately jump on the electric bandwagon. Instead, they perfected their line of combustion engines with enviable efficiency, reducing weight and simplifying components to achieve better performance without needing to electrify everything. While everyone else was talking about batteries, Mazda was focused on refining the present. And the results? Design awards, reliability rankings, customers who enthusiastically recommend their cars, and something that's becoming harder and harder for Toyota: an aspirational brand image without being out of reach. Mazda has also managed to move skillfully in markets where Toyota used to dominate. It has gained ground in Latin America, in the United States, and even in its own home country. Because even though both are Japanese, Mazda doesn't want to be in Toyota's shadow. It wants to be the alternative. And it's succeeding. In a world where brands are becoming more and more generic, Mazda has chosen the hard path, the one of staying true to its essence. And that decision, which once seemed risky, is now paying off. Because while Toyota struggles to adapt to everything, Mazda just keeps doing its own thing and doing it better and better. Subaru: safety, reliability, and a patient strategy. In a world obsessed with immediacy, Subaru represents the opposite. It doesn't launch new models every 6 months, it doesn't flood social media with futuristic promises, and it doesn't aim to lead global sales either. And yet, there it is, steady, stable, growing, and dangerously close to the hearts of the consumers that Toyota managed to win over for decades. Subaru has built its reputation like few other brands, brick by brick, and it has done so with 3 pillars that many take for granted: safety, all-wheel drive, and extreme reliability. It doesn't need flashy ads or million-dollar campaigns. All it takes is for someone to try a Subaru on snowy terrain or a mountain road to understand why this brand has an almost fanatical following. And this is where the story gets interesting, because Toyota has always played the reliability card. The car that never breaks down, that lasts for generations, that only needs gas and that's it. But Subaru has managed to build that same image with a more passionate approach. Its symmetrical all-wheel drive system is practically a religion among its drivers. It's not just that it works, it saves you. And in places where the weather can be your enemy, that's priceless. While Toyota was diversifying its production lines toward urban cars, compacts, hybrids, and family vehicles, Subaru was honing its specialty: tough SUVs, rugged sedans, and vehicles built for the unpredictable. Models like the Forester, Outback, or Crosstrek have become favorites for people living in rural or mountainous areas, or for anyone who just wants a car that can handle whatever comes its way without sacrificing comfort. Plus, their first electric model, the Solterra, even though its distribution is limited, already shows that Subaru has no intention of being left out of the game. But they'll do it at their own pace, in their own way, with a customer base that values exactly that. Subaru doesn't get swept up in the collective hysteria. In customer satisfaction rankings, Subaru consistently appears at the top. Why is that? Because their cars don't promise more than they deliver, and what they deliver, they deliver well. Period. Toyota, on the other hand, by trying to cover the entire spectrum, from city cars to luxury hybrids, has started to dilute that close connection it once had with its most loyal customers. And Subaru is taking advantage of that. So yes, even though their global numbers are still far from Toyota's, Subaru represents a different kind of threat. One that doesn't shout but keeps moving forward. One that doesn't aim to destroy the giant, but to show that there's another way of doing things. Slower, but maybe more lasting. Nida Auto, a Chinese failure that says a lot about Toyota. China is the new battleground of the automotive industry. And like any war front, not all soldiers survive. Nida Auto, one of the rising stars in China's electric vehicle sector, seemed to have it all: government backing, modern design, aggressive pricing, and a clear vision for the future. But in 2025, it's teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. And while at first glance it might seem like just another failed startup story, what's happening with Nida should set off all the alarms, especially at Toyota. The reason? Because Nida is not an isolated case. It's a symptom of something much bigger: the brutal oversaturation of the electric vehicle market in China, a market where more than 100 brands are fiercely battling just to survive. Prices are dropping, competition is cutthroat, and only the strongest or most adaptable will make it. So what does Toyota have to do with all this? A lot more than it seems. The news that shook the industry wasn't just Nida's downfall, but also the rumors that Toyota might be interested in saving it. A Japanese giant rescuing a Chinese brand on the verge of disappearing? Does that make sense? At first glance, no. If we look closer, it reveals an uncomfortable truth. Toyota desperately needs to break into the Chinese electric vehicle ecosystem, and fast. Because while Tesla, BYD, and other Chinese brands already have an established network, Toyota is still trying to find its place. The Japanese brand was never strong in pure electric vehicles. They bet on hybrids, whether out of conviction or caution. But that strategy, which worked for years, now seems outdated in the face of the flood of pure electric models that China launches to the market every month. Furthermore, if NIDA falls, and all signs point to that happening, it will leave a gap that other Chinese brands will take advantage of to gain ground. Brands like Xpeng, Neo, or even Leapmotor are seeing this crisis as a golden opportunity. And that will make it even harder for Toyota to enter that market with strength unless they have a solid and aggressive strategy. This story isn't just about a collapse. It's a warning, because what is happening to NIDA today could happen tomorrow to any brand that doesn't know how to adapt to the new automotive order. Even to a giant like Toyota. And the final message is clear. If Toyota wants to survive in the global electric world, it has to decide whether it's going to lead or keep salvaging the remains of others just to try to stay afloat. Honda, the old rival that never left. There has always been a quiet tension between Toyota and Honda. They're like those siblings who grow up together, compete in everything, and even though each one takes their own path, they know exactly how to beat the other. For decades, Toyota was the bigger one, dominating in volume, image, and hybrid innovation. But Honda, quietly, has been weaving something much more dangerous. A long-term strategy that is just now starting to bear fruit. Unlike other brands that explode in popularity and then fade away, Honda has built its identity on pillars very similar to Toyota's. Reliability, efficiency, technology, but with a special twist. Honda is restrained excitement. Their cars have always offered an extra touch of sportiness, a spark of design, and a connection with the driver that Toyota often overlooks. And in 2025, Honda no longer wants to be the eternal runner-up. Honda is moving toward electric vehicles with more decisive steps than its traditional rival. The alliance with Mitsubishi, although not widely publicized, is part of a network of strategic collaborations aimed at accelerating their ability to respond to the modern market. It's not about competing with Tesla, but about creating their own path, and they're doing it smartly. But what really makes Toyota nervous isn't just the cars. It's Honda's new corporate approach. A more agile vision, less bureaucratic, and more willing to take calculated risks. While Toyota is still debating whether to stick with hybrids or go all in on electric, Honda is already designing modular platforms, optimizing its factories, and preparing a new generation of vehicles that meet the needs of today's consumers. And let's not forget a crucial detail. Honda is also strong where Toyota is strong. Latin America, the United States, Japan, they compete in the same segments with similar audiences. But while Toyota maintains its conservative brand image, Honda has started to connect with a younger, more digital audience, one that's more attuned to aesthetics and technology. What used to be a passive rivalry is now turning into a direct crossing of paths. And if Toyota doesn't react in time, Honda could not only take away its market share, but also steal the hearts of consumers who, for decades, swore loyalty to the oval logo. In this race, it's not the biggest who wins, but the one who adapts best. And Honda, it seems, has learned that in times of change, there's no better strategy than remembering who you are while completely reinventing yourself. Tesla, the enemy that changed the rules of the game. Toyota ruled the world when everything was predictable. Combustion engines, Japanese efficiency, processes perfected down to the last millimeter. Every car rolled off the line as a promise of durability. It was the era of reliability, and Toyota was its emperor. But then, Tesla broke the rules, and it didn't do it like a traditional manufacturer. It arrived like a tech company, like a Silicon Valley firm obsessed with data, algorithms, and the speed of iteration. While Toyota took years to launch a new generation, Tesla rolled out software updates overnight that transformed the car's behavior without moving a single part. And for a modern consumer, that's magic. The problem for Toyota isn't that Tesla makes electric cars. It's that Tesla changed customer expectations. Today, it's no longer enough for a car to be reliable. It has to be smart, connected, exciting. It has to sense the driver, know if there's traffic, if it's raining, if there's a child behind the car. It has to learn, anticipate, improve. And that's where Toyota is losing the most important battle, the mental one. Because while Tesla captures the public's imagination, Toyota keeps talking about thermal efficiency, hybrid engines, and years of proven reliability. All of that is still valuable, yes, but it's not sexy, it's not viral, it's not the future. Tesla, with all its problems, and it definitely has them, has done something no other rival has managed. Become a status symbol for a new generation. It's not just about having an electric car, it's about having a Tesla. It's the iPhone on wheels. And meanwhile, Toyota is only just starting to respond. The BZ4X, their first serious attempt at a fully electric car, arrived late with initial problems and without the commercial strength needed to compete with the Model Y. It wasn't a disaster, but it wasn't a revolution either. And the market doesn't give second chances so easily anymore. And this is where things get interesting. It's not that Tesla is going to destroy Toyota in terms of volume. It's not going to sell more cars in every country or cover every segment. But it's doing something even more dangerous. It's turning Toyota into a brand of the past. And in the automotive industry, when perception changes, everything changes. Toyota can still respond. It has resources, talent, and an impressive global network. But if it can't adapt to the pace that Tesla is setting, the Japanese giant could end up like Nokia in the era of the iPhone. A legend, yes, but unable to understand that the game is no longer just about hardware. Imagine for a second a world without Toyota, without Corollas dominating the streets, without Hilux conquering impossible roads, without Prius leading the hybrid revolution. Seems unthinkable, right? And it is, but not impossible. Great brands don't fall overnight. They do it slowly through conservative decisions, half-hearted innovations, and a growing disconnect from what their audience really needs. It's not collapse that kills giants, it's inertia. Today, Toyota faces a crossfire. On one side, there are traditional brands boldly reinventing themselves, Honda, Mazda, Subaru. On the other, the electric avalanche coming from Europe with Renault and from Asia with dozens of startups like Nita Auto. And above all, the shadow of Tesla, which is no longer just a brand, but the symbol of everything Toyota still hasn't managed to become. So, are we witnessing the beginning of the end? Not necessarily. Toyota has something many envy. Time earned, years of experience, a proven supply chain, billions in cash, and a reputation that still holds strong, that doesn't disappear overnight. But it also has something that could become its worst enemy: pride. Do you think Toyota will manage to reinvent itself before these brands finish cornering it? Or are we witnessing the twilight of a legend? Let me know in the comments. Toyota has the muscle to reinvent itself. It's done it before. It was the first to believe in hybrids when everyone else was laughing. It was the one that made a pickup truck as reliable as a Swiss watch. It has brilliant engineers, flawless factories, and a history that many still respect. The question isn't whether it can do it. The question is whether it wants to do it in time, because the future waits for no one. And in this new world of electric cars, software, artificial intelligence, and sustainability, there are only two options: be the leader or be just a memory. Share this with that friend who swears Toyota will never fall. Maybe it'll make them think twice.